Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the incredible story of former Springbok Heinrich Fuls. Heinrich, it's lovely to have you on Front Row Rugby. Welcome.
Thanks, Peter, man. Thanks for having me.
Now, just before we begin the conversation, let's take a look at this week's trivia question. Which city was the venue for Rassie Erasmus's first test as Springbok coach in 2018? Now, if you know the answer to that question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Heinrich knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Heinrich, I'd like to begin in 1992. How confident were you that you were going to make the Springbok squad ahead of that first test back against the All Blacks?
No, Peter, 1992 is very much of one of those dream years. I played trials for RAU, which is the UJ now. And Japie Mulder and Pieter de Haas was the center combination for RAU. So I was actually selected to play for RAU second side. So I never made it to the A side. And then Harry Verjoen invited me to trials to play for Transvaal trials. But I mean, you couldn't even make the varsity A side. And then the next morning I woke up and I was in the side. So I can't tell you that I even thought about playing Springbok Rugby in 1992. It wasn't even part of the dream because it was just too far-fetched.
So given that, now you are in the Springbok squad, you're named on the bench, 1992, first test match against the All Blacks, there you are at Ellis Park. What was going through your mind at that stage?
It's hectic because, like I said to you earlier, I didn't plan or anticipate that I will be there. Again, it's through injuries. That Transvaal trials, Japie Mulder tore his cruciate ligaments. The week before the All Blacks played, before the junior All Blacks played, the junior Springboks played the All Blacks just before the first test. Brendan Venter broke his leg against the All Blacks at Free State. So I think then I played for the junior box against the All Blacks, and then because I played SS Schools B fullback and I played center, so I think they saw me as a utility back. And again, it was an absolute stunner surprise to be announced to be in the squad. Rocked up at the hotel and have your kit there. It's surreal. You can't describe it, but confidence to be there. No idea. No, it's like a blindsided slap in the face. You just couldn't predict it. So.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not hit the like button? Now, you did actually get to come onto the field. I know it was only for 2 minutes, but how special was that feeling?
Yeah, no, it was, because you're on the bench, you're part of everything, but in those days, the bench didn't stand on the field when the anthem was sung and stuff like that, so you were not on the pitch. But I mean, the atmosphere was absolutely electrifying with that full Ellis Park. When James came off and I went up, you just slot in. And I mean, I slotted in. Robert de Pre gave me a short ball, crashed into the forwards, and Donnie scored a try. So we spoke about it the other day. He says, "Oh, well, at least I still carried the ball forward." So very surreal. But when you're in the moment, you just can't describe it because with a full stadium. Ellis Park when it's full, it's one of the best stadiums to play at. So it was absolutely special.
After that test match against the All Blacks, we played against the Wallabies in Cape Town, and then we went to Europe for a tour, playing France and England. And I've had quite a few former Springboks on the show who have spoken about the difficulties on the French leg of that tour. They talk about the training facilities, maybe the scrum machine was at a different place, the accommodation wasn't up to scratch, they didn't have a good time with the food in France. What was your experience like?
It was rough. I mean, for us those days, to play a whole season and then to go on tour again, you were physically tired because we were not professionals. And but Yanni, our manager, just the one hotel that we booked in was one of the hotels they stayed in 1960 or I don't know what year. They wanted to book us in, and the management just said no, we can't because they're messing us around. We're staying 2 hours away from the training fields. We bussed between cities. It was just hair raising. We traveled a lot. So the French made it as difficult as possible for us. So, but also something that struck me was when we got to like the first test, and the protesters were there protesting that we would play. And then only did you realize what apartheid meant and how people saw us. You never. It was just you would drive in a bus and people want to throw things into you. People scrambling into our hotel room the one day, calling us racists and whatever and whatnot. Which was so there was a little bit of dynamics from the rugby union side. There was the people that some people didn't want us there. But yeah, overall it was very difficult. Then from the food side, I remember we didn't have a dietitian those days. The one, I think 2 or 3 weeks into the tour, they realized we're eating way too much and also eating McDonald's and all so they tried to give us steamed fish and steamed chicken breast, but the guys didn't take well to that. So they had to change back to the normal menus that we had. But yeah, it was a very difficult tour. And like Nars and those guys that were all working, and Adolf Malan and the lawyers and the doctors and the guys that was in the squad, like there's a dentist, and it was quite difficult before we went to negotiate on how do we get paid, because it was 8 weeks. I was a student, I was working, but it was quite an intriguing story to see how we can negotiate. Can we get paid? How much is, I think it was £21 or £2, or I don't know. It was a ridiculous amount of money that you get per day to travel. So yeah, so all of that, I think it was not an easy tour, and physically we were tired. But then we sat with John Williams that wanted you to play Saturday, copper stump Monday, play Wednesday, copper stump Thursday, which is pretty much contact 3 to 4 times a week, and you're already tired. So yeah, no, it wasn't easy.
The French leg, obviously not very easy, according to just about everybody that I've spoken to. Was England any different?
England was, I think we were only there for 2 or 3 weeks, so it wasn't that difficult. The weather was obviously playing its part, and wet training conditions and stuff. But no, England was a little bit better than the French. The French was horrendous.
Now, in 1993, you became the starting inside centre for the Springboks. How much pressure did you feel?
At that stage, for the year before, in 92, I scored the second most tries for Transvaal. Peter Hendricks broke Harry Germes's record as the most tries in a season. So I was confident that I could play, and I was, Peter Miller, myself, was the biggest centre pair in world rugby at that stage, and obviously Ian Mack wanted to try more direct rugby and that, and we, because I played fullback and centre, from fullback position at Grey College, you learn to run proper lines and try and spaces and stuff. So I was confident that it was, the French just had so much experience. I think we were, I think 30 caps versus 150 caps or something like that. It was just unthinkable that we stand a chance. So yeah, but I was confident in the guys next to me. I mean, Peter and myself know each other. We played school together. So yeah, so you weren't intimidated by them because you knew you had capacity to play. But yeah, just a little bit intimidating, the fact that they are so experienced. That's where we were not in it. And we drew the test, which was, a little bit bittersweet. And then we lost the next one with 1 point. So, and Hugh van Rensburg kicked a kick in the last, I think there was 10 minutes to go, 7 minutes to go, and it just went under the crossbar. And the next day, the whole team was changed. And you think to yourself, if if the kick went over, the report would have been a little bit different. And it's only one kick, but the rest of the game would have been the same.
And then after that, we went to Australia. We won that first test match in Sydney. Famously, Australia were the world champions at the time. Talk to me about that occasion.
That was most probably the best rugby game I've played in my entire life. I put a little grabber through for Peter Miller. Campisi knocked on, Peter scored. Second half, I kicked a cross kick over for James Small. He scored in the corner. And that was just the change room afterwards was something unbelievable. We just, nobody gave us a chance. The South African reporters, even from family, saying, that this ex-Springbok is saying this, that one is saying not rating us, not giving us any chances. So, but I also think they didn't know what to expect from us. So they couldn't really plan. It's only when you there and when I went to play rugby league that you realize that the rugby league that was professional, that they've got systems in place, and that's how Australian rugby obviously tapped into those defense systems and stuff. So when we came to the second test, they've obviously went down. Tim Horn and Jason Little sat down and said, okay, this is the strategy. Obviously, I have to carry it over the advantage line, and they neutralized me. And pretty much, not saying I was a kingpin, but Mac played around me and Tian Strauss. So I was supposed to break the advantage line, feed Tian off. Joel would loop on me, and they just neutralized me. I mean, Tim Horn, he's not a big guy, but his center of gravity is very low. He could tackle me every single time, and we just couldn't get in the second test. We just couldn't get going.
And then we ended up losing the series 2-1. You told me about touring France and England. What was it like touring Australia?
Australia was nice, because there was a lot of South Africans. Like in Adelaide, I think there was more South African spectators at the game than there was Australians. So we were very, very well received in Australia, and no, it was a very, very nice tour. We started in Perth. We travelled everywhere. We even went up to one of the little places where Quibus, VC and everybody, we had to sit in little 6 and 8 seater planes where everybody's like James Small can't fly, he hates flying. So some oaks had to take a sleeping tablet to get through the flight. But no, it was also fairly long distances, but it was a well organized tour. Every stadium we played, it was full house. We lost against New South Wales before that first test, which was very disappointing. But yeah, it was nice because it's, when it's a full house and the crowd is there, and, the result doesn't maybe go your way, but it's still a good experience.
And most of the guys that I've had on the show that went to Argentina after that in '93 have also spoken glowingly about that country. What was your experience like of Argentina?
And the only thing that I can really remember is the fight of Tucuman. That was, I mean, that was also not a bad tour, but I think Tucuman and the local refs and the local midweek games was very difficult. I mean, our physio, Evan Speechley, he had to halftime. He put a raincoat on because he was spit at some spat. The spectators were spitting him. So no, that was a different tour. And I mean, Tucuman, I'm not a fighter, but I tell you, when somebody spits you in your face, then it sort of brings something out of you. So it was that summarized the tour where it was midweeks was very rough. Local refs didn't go your way. Oaks were playing very dirty. Felt like you played, in the coloured leagues there in the Cape, where it's a negative form of rugby. So they were only there to take you out, late tackles. So you're worried you're going to get injured, that kind of stuff. So, but the tour itself, I think we all had a good time, good steaks, we ate well, and we won the 2 tests, which was obviously the most important thing of the tour. So yeah, that was fantastic.
Now, Heinrich, you played your final test match against the Pumas. How disappointed were you that it ended there?
When we came back, you play 7 tests in a row and you think they're busy building something. So the next year we had a training camp, and there was we were about 6 or 7 centers, and they put out a squad, and Ian McIntosh didn't give me a jersey. I was on the bench of all those. So something changed. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's the selectors, or maybe he decided I'm a crash baller. I can't play normal rugby, which I was requested to do that. It wasn't my own idea to start crashing balls up in the middle of the field. So yeah, it was a major disappointment because you would hope that you would continue playing. So yeah, that training camp gave me a bit of a wow. Obviously something's changed. It's I don't know if the selectors changed or Mac's idea of his direct rugby has changed. I still haven't spoken to him about it today. I wanted to ask him what did I do something wrong or what changed, but. Yeah, so that was a major disappointment because, like I said, I mean, you expect to play a whole season, and then the next season you would sort of anticipate that things will just carry on, and it unfortunately didn't.
Heinrich, you didn't score a test try, and in that last test against Argentina, we won 52-23. Did you speak to your teammates afterwards saying, listen, could someone just not pass the ball to me in space here?
No, I played most probably 18 or 19 Springbok games, and I didn't score, but it was because A lot of times it's because they changed the dynamic. When you play for the Springboks, you play under instruction and you stick to what you're required of. If you don't do that, you're not going to get selected again. So I think I was more on the ground than I was up in my feet because you had to defend and you had to carry the ball up. So I was just not in a playable position to receive a ball to cross the white chalk. So where, like I said earlier, in Transvaal, where we had freedom with Harry to play, I scored the second most tries. So at Grey Bloem, I scored the most. I was the highest point scorer in matric, but it was only tries. I even had more points than the kickers. So so it was quite. Today, when you think about it, it's disappointing that you played so many games that you couldn't cross the chalk once. Very disappointing, to say the least.
I have no doubt. So, Heinrich, a little bit earlier you spoke about John Williams and his coaching technique, and you've touched a little bit on Ian McIntosh and his direct rugby. If I could ask you to elaborate a little bit, would you mind discussing, in your opinion, the two men and their coaching philosophies?
John was still old school. Like I said, you play Saturday, Monday morning, you will still have another contact session. Wednesday, you play a full game. So for him, it was all about brutality and physicalness. And I think it's like the Bulls that he coached, that was, you dominate up front and you had a fly off like Nas that can give you positional play, but it's all about the forwards to get the forward back going in it. So where Ian Mack was a little bit more open, and he wanted to try and introduce a game plan, to try and give us to play to a certain structure and to get us to do specific things on specific places on the field, where John wasn't so technically inclined. It was more brutal force, and you just have to more grin and bear and grind it out. So where Mac was, I think he was maybe a little bit before his time, same as Harry Viljoen when I played for the Transvaal, that they were both thinking a little bit more outside of the box, trying to get all the players on buying in the game plan. Because if you don't have buy-in, if you lose your players in the change room, then you don't have a game going on. So and it was new for Mac, so it was new for him, it was new for us. So yeah, I think he's technically was more advanced than John Williams was.
Okay, Heinrich, who was your toughest opponent?
Well, I would say I've played the most against Tim Horn, but he and Jason Little was really winning a World Cup. I think they were 19 or 20 years old when they won the World Cup. They were such a combined unit that they knew each other inside, outside center. The one, when you play center, you need to know what your partner is doing, and they as a pair knew exactly. They played off each other. There was confidence in their defense. Like I said earlier, that Tim would neutralize me. He basically just kept me out of the game. So I would say he was definitely my best opponent that I've played against. And I mean, it showed in his rugby. He was a world-class player.
Heinrich, is there a particularly funny moment that you can share with us from your time with the Springboks?
When we went to France and England, I was only 21. I turned 21 that year. I was the youngest Springbok in history in Transvaal at that stage. And these guys like Garth Wright and Adolf Malan and Donnie Faber, they were 32, 33 years old. So I was a skivvy. I had to Lion Lager toured with us, where they had a rep that toured with us the whole tour. And they created boxes of beer to every hotel that we stayed in. And then the fans would come and drink with us. And then afterwards we would go out, and then Adolf Malan and Garth Wright would say, no, I'm the skivvy, so I must take a case or 2 cases of beer. Then we would walk to a bar, Adolf at 2 meters 10 or whatever, just tell the bouncer or whatever, we'd bring our own beer in. And then we would have a couple of beers in the bar with our own beers, So as a skivvy at 21, I was really the groentjie on the block. I was the youngest in the squad. So that was very, the old guys included you in fun facts like that, So we went out together, and it was quite funny to walk in with a case of beer into a restaurant and just some tall oak just explaining to this, there's no option here. It just happens, we're going to take our beer in and have our own beer inside in your restaurant.
Very cool indeed. Heinrich, what are you up to these days?
I work for an entrepreneur here in town. He's got 13 restaurants, and that's I'm ops manager for him. So we venture a little bit into hospitality. So yeah, but like I said earlier, we've just been in PE for the last 18 months, still finding our feet, getting our friends groups circles sorted out, and meeting new people every week. And yeah, I slotted in with some old rugby guys from Eastern Province, and they've been welcomed us in. But they all, like I said, played. They 63, 65. Donnie Gabbard was in a group there, so we caught up with him a bit. So he's like, P is obviously a little bit better than his London. So Kabega.
Absolutely. All right, Heinrich, we're going to take a look at the trivia question again quickly. Which city was the venue for Rassie Erasmus's first test as Springbok coach in 2018? Do you know the answer, Heinrich?
I don't know. I would guess Ellis Park.
I think most people would guess that it would be a South African city, right? The correct answer is actually Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah, I remember when he sent that second string side across. That was right. Oh, no, that was quite a controversial team and a controversial decision for him to do that. No, that's true. But again, kudos to him. I mean, he got that going and the process started and the trophy's in the cupboard. So nobody can complain about that.
Heinrich, let me tell you, it was lovely having you on Front Row Rugby today, and I hope that we can have you on again in the future.
Brilliant, Peter. Thanks for sharing and thanks for taking some time out with me.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, I had 1992 Springbok coach John Williams as my guest. You can go and watch that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, we'll have 1995 Rugby World Cup winner Pieter Hendricks here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, why not tackle the like button? You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content from Front Row Rugby. See you next time.